So here we are, Sheltered Pass, the nice tile set release with the Romans, and we've got Geese as player 2, the red Persian player, and Grungy as player 1, the blue Romans player. So Grungy's picked the new Civ. He's eligible for an extra little bonus if he happens to play this pretty creatively, pretty aggressively, or defends really well. Plays with the style no one else has really seen, or anything like that, because there is an award for the best Romans player this tournament. And Grungy seems to be a pretty good Romans player. He's actually a really good Babylonian and Persian player as well. Taking games off me many a time as both of those civs. Geese, on the other hand, also very good at most of those cavalry heavy civilizations, particularly Persian and Egyptian. So both of these guys. Oh, we've got a Castellum here, because Grungy's actually managed to get the one storehouse between the Hunts and the Woodline. So he's actually able to go for a fairly early barracks there, even though he sort of went for the storehouse first. Well, Geese, on the other hand, because he went storehouse first and wasn't so lucky with that, didn't really gather any wood from the trees around his town centre, he's had to go double storehouse first, getting hunting dogs, and he's actually going to go for his stone mine already, getting the storehouse in front of the mine actually, because he sort of wants to be able to defend the villages as best as possible. I'm not sure if this is the best position. He probably should have put it there but then kept it back another tile, I think. I'm not sure if there's actually a gap there. I don't think there's actually a gap for a villager to fit in there, so that could hurt him a little bit there. It's going to slow down his gathering, because it's not too bad now that he's only got the 2 or 3 villagers there. But when he goes up to 5, he's going to need to sit them over here. And even then, just this lady here, and whoever's gathering out there, will be gathering in perfectly. Compared to, you know, a perfectly placed storehouse, which has seen Grungy's done here with both of these. So he's got the gap there, and he's got the gap there to actually fit villagers. And Grungy, because he's got that faster barracks, only off that one storehouse opening, looks fairly comfortably ahead at the moment, because he's going to be able to go for spears as well as work on his town center only slightly later, and he'll be able to push out with these spears very quickly now, because he's scouted, he's seen that Geese doesn't have a barracks. Got a Grungy's vision, very good scouting from him. You can see all the starting resources, everything going on in Geese's base, and there's no barracks, so he feels comfortable, feels that Geese probably isn't proxying a barracks somewhere, so he's going to push out with the spears. Still got a couple home to defend, well, leaving one at home to defend, running the rest across the map. No, he's going to run them all. Either way, I think he's fairly safe and confident in this position. Geese, faster age 2, getting handsaw out already, so Geese's economic play here, really quite quick, and he can pull ahead in villages quite quickly here if he doesn't lose any, and he manages to get a TC down uninterrupted. He's got the goats here, he's already got hunting dogs, so he'll be able to sit on this, gather from them faster than he would from the berries anyway, without having to commit to picker's gloves, or even if he did commit to picker's gloves. So he's just getting the wood he needs now to go for the town centre. Actually, he's got the resources, but I think he's a bit hesitant because he's not sure whether... Yeah, he just didn't want to put it down where Grungy could see it, because now Grungy hasn't seen this go down, so he's not going to be able to interrupt it as easily as he otherwise thought, because he's looking very aggressive here. He's got 7 spears and the scout here. He's going to see this now, so he's going to chase the woodline villagers off, but now he's going to get right behind all the villagers on the TC. He's going to focus for the villagers rather than the town centre itself, given that it's on so much health. He wants to get a couple of villager kills here. He's down to 13 villagers to Grungy's 17, so Grungy has a 4-vill lead. This is really quite nice. If he can snipe another vill or 2 here, where he can walk away and pretty much have undone the fact that Geese is going to have a much faster town centre timing. In fact, Grungy, it's only a little bit of stone off his, really, and Geese is losing a lot of gathering time. 14 vills to 18 here, so Grungy for now just going to siege with these guys until Geese goes to drop them out again. Just delay the gathering time as much as he can, which is doing a nice job of it. Geese is really quite starved for food here. He's not maintaining double vill production. So 19 vills to 14. Grungy walks away with a 5-vill lead. Town centre of his own. Isn't out just yet, but he's adding some more production first. He's going to add the second Castellum. Just needs to get these guys back to work, which he's going to do now. And I think Grungy is feeling quite comfortable here, because by the time Geese catches up and passes him in Vill lead, his own town centre will be going down and he'll have a massive production lead. So right now Grungy's looking really solid. Geese I think can take solace in the fact that he really only lost about 3 villages there, maybe 4. But he had a lot of training downtime, considering he got the second town centre out and then wasn't producing out of it straight away, and then sort of had a gap there when he ran out of food. And to start with, even when he first got pushed by Grungy, he wasn't producing optimally. And so Grungy gonna harass again. There's no military production out, and Geese is forced to have to try and force out a range before a barracks or a stables, which is gonna hurt him in the long run too, I think, because having ranged units out really hurts unless you've got a good front line, because your opponent really just needs to get any of the Age 2 cavalry and they are going to dick your ranged units. So Geese, 1 bowman production at a time. Grungy's got double legionary. Now the bowmen do count the legionary, but when you're training them 2 to 1, the legionary do have innate armor, and you're obviously going to follow up with more production and still hopefully have a slight lead on it. It can be quite scary for your opponent to deal with. So Geese, the villager lead is swung in his favour. Grungy's town centre a little bit slower, so Geese is up by 4 villages at 27 to 23. And Geese can look at adding some more of his own production here, but he needs to be a bit careful that Grungy doesn't come in and dive him anywhere, because he's not going to really have the resources to boom both his production upwards and be able to produce out of all of his structures at the same time if Grungy punishes a resource too hard, like if it's gold or if it's wood, or even if it's just food in particular. Well, food in particular, because if you cut your villager production here, you can undo any little benefit of having gotten the faster second town centre out. So Geese try not to over micro the bone, which was good. Then he got the shot off, basically pulled them back, turned around and shot straight away again. So he's paying a lot of attention to this. Grungy on the meanwhile has just pulled them back and is looking back at home, throwing up more production, double auxiliary camp, which is interesting. I would have thought maybe a single auxiliary camp and the Praetorium would be the way to go. But, I mean, that's my personal opinion. Maybe Grungy's going to pull the rabbit out of the hat here and really punish Geese early on for having made such a greedy commitment, because right now Geese just has double range and a barracks, so it's a good way to approach Romans, I suppose, playing around a high bowman count. But at the same time, if he gets Decurions and you don't have the spearman count to actually force them off, you know, you can lose an awful lot of value here. These guys train really quickly, but they also do hit the hip pocket in the long run. They might seem expendable, but they're not. Because everything else in the Persian arsenal is quite expensive to try and field, other than the bowmen. And the bowmen just train with such ease out of one or two facilities anyway. You don't really need a huge amount of them. Your ranges, that is. But with some more barracks as well. At the same time, you don't want to get too much barracks, because legionaries will trade quite well against a civ with no melee, well, with no counter infantry. Like, your melee should be a mix of spearmen, obviously, to try and ward off Decurions, but then at the same time you probably want to put in some Asabara to force your opponent to have to field some spearmen rather than the legionaries, who don't actually have the ranged armor that legionaries, that don't have the pierce armor that legionaries do. Oh, Grungy's moving a little bit closer than he probably needed to there before he started engaging, because the slingers have been a bit late in getting some attacks off. But at the same time, Geese, no front line, like I said. So Grungy's able to pretty much just keep pushing until he gets right back here to Geese's base. And Grungy's able to secure these resources. So village accounts 42 to 51. Grungy's slightly slipped a little there, I think, on top of the fact that he has actually finished that second town centre. I think it would have put him about 7 or 8, and he might have missed a villager in production or something. Anyway, double stables here from the Persian player. So Geese, noticing that he really needs to actually have a bit of a front line to take an engagement here. So he's going to have a mix of spear, spara, and asabara. to actually frontline these bowmen, be a good meat shield. While Grungy is going to have mostly legionaries. Because he didn't see any Asabara then, he's not really going to have added any spears. He's going to continue to add his slingers though. Although I really think he probably needs to add a Praetorium at some point, because he could probably do with having a nice mobile tanky melee unit just to try and interrupt these bowmen. That's not of the infantry class, so it's just going to get countered. So Malarium's all here. For Grungy, this is interesting. Is he just going to try and surround Geese's base with Malariums just to really bolster his hit and runs? I think is possibly the strategy we're going to see here. So Grungy a little bit down on population compared to Geese at the moment. So Geese 61 villages, 131 pop to the 110 of Grungy, who's pop capped at the moment. He needs to get some houses out. And he's got 52 vills, so 11 vill lead. Army lead also slightly favouring Geese. Big engagement going down. But that Bowman ball is really quite threatening. And like I said, because Grungy doesn't have any Decurions, he's got no real way of taking that on head on. And if he tries and runs the slingers in there, now that Geese has added some Asabara, it is a bit more dangerous, because these melee cavalry in Age 2 are really threatening to all the range types, particularly the Asabara because they've got an innate counter, but the Decurions as well because they've got nice flat damage and they've just got a high health pool, and neither the bowmen nor the slingers are going to get bonus damage against them. But excellent vision control here from both these players. So Geese really sort of expanding down towards this right side towards Grungy, but Grungy's actually gone quite offensively here with these Malariums and this watch post. I wonder what he's going to try and go for here. He's going to try and wall this side off fairly early, but Geese is expanding down on this one. So this will probably be the side Geese tries to hit. It's a real yin-yang situation, I think, on Sheltered Pass a lot of the time. Like, players will often sort of venture off one way while their opponent ventures off around the other, and then you sort of actually end up sprung with the map like cut in half. So player 2 takes this bottom section and player 1 takes this top section, right? But sorry to do that as well. It probably looked a bit annoying, nauseating. But yeah, it goes against all these little chokes here, but then it just makes for a very easy game to actually wall off, because you only really need to wall off there and then sort of off here. So Geese is going to make a hit with 10 Asabara here. Grungy hasn't really got anything to defend this right now. The army's slowly going to come across, but it's going to have to run through this web of buildings. So Geese forcing Grungy to have to garrison a lot and kill a couple of villagers there. So it's 70 to 63 in terms of vill counts. Geese is pop capped and gone to Age 3, taking his third town centre to actually try and get to 180 pop, sniping a couple of houses here of Grungy as well. So that's really quite smart. He's keeping Grungy on the ropes at the moment, so Grungy doesn't really want to commit to anything unless it's going to be drastic. So a bit of damage on the wall. Losing the market's going to hurt a bit. But a bit of damage on the wall, losing a couple of villages there. Not a huge effect. He doesn't want to. Grungy doesn't want to find he overcommits somewhere only to have Geese hit him elsewhere. So a couple of legionaries are going to come in here to try and just delay this as well. And Grungy going to add the cavalry, the Ekkas. I'm not sure how to say it. So they got a bonus versus cavalry, and they get a bonus versus range when you've get them to champion. So they'll be very useful against the Asabara. Geese in the meanwhile has 5 upgrades in the queue. Grungy's actually getting Presidium, so there is a ranged attack on the Presidium, which is the upgraded version of the Castellum that the Romans get. And previously you actually had to get villagers in the building in order for it to actually have a ranged attack. Nowadays it has an innate ranged attack when you get the upgrade. It's just that when you get villagers you get increased range and damage, I believe. So Geese doing a good job at trying to wall this side off as well. While Grungy's had a bit of a hit here, he can always replace that though. And he's going to try and mark it up on the other side. It's just outside of Geese's vision at the moment, but Geese just moving the Asabara just in case he might see something, but he's still a bit too far to actually see anything there. Well, Grungy, nice 180 pop force now from him. 74 pop to 70. Actually slightly ahead in terms of the Vil count, and Geese inside his base again though. So Geese is going to try and get a good flank, maybe try and kill some of these gold gatherers. Or Grungy try and take the engage on the huge bowman ball. There's about 65 bowmen here. There's a lot of slingers to help deal with this as well. 35 slingers too. So the bowman count's really getting whittled down. Grungy needs to be careful and maintain the chase. Try and shepherd off the melee units with his own melee while the slingers get the optimal kills. And he's doing a good job though. Most of the slingers are targeting the bowmen. We're down to 30. There's still 24 slingers, so the slinger count nowhere near as poorly affected as the bowman. But now that the Asabara that we're raiding have come in and all the front line for Grungy has gone down, Geese has managed to win this fight. He's well ahead, I think, because now these Ekis are just coming in one by one, and they're in such a small number they're not going to be able to beat the units that they'd normally be able to counter in even number. So Geese, with mostly Asabara bowmen left. I mean, Manasakis with some couple of bowmen or slingers of Grungy's own could probably just beat that, but Grungy doesn't look as though he's got the resources to get there because Geese has been keeping the pressure up. For some reason, oh, what are you? Is Grungy gonna try and put workshops here or something? Like, what's the point of having a million Malariums in your opponent's base? I don't understand. Like, I mean, where's the payoff, bro? Maybe we're gonna see it. Maybe we're gonna see some epic siege workshops or something, or Onagers, or I mean Onagers or Scorpios coming out in the Malariums, just harassing the hell out of Geese from out of nowhere. So the Echo's gonna come in on the Asabara, 14 to 16, but they do counter them. So Geese is gonna have to run as soon as he gets that market. The Geese is keeping the pressure up, and poor old Grungy's trying to defend in multiple spots here. While down on resources and army, so it's a really tricky situation for him to be in. You have to make perfect use of everything. I mean, these barracks, the Presidium upgrade on the barracks, very good idea, because I mean, when he's got 3 or 4 barracks in his base, they're effectively going to be like towers anyway, and if he's worried about losing these, he just throws down more. And yeah, it's just like getting towers. So the Echo's coming in here, straight onto the bowman, then some of them will fold onto the Asabara, so that's really good control here from Grungy, despite just not having the units he needs to really defend in this situation, I think, because Geese still has a small 20 pop lead on him and is pushing on both sides of his base. Big resource lead as well. Not sure where Grungy's going to be getting food from with all these... Oh no, this is terrible. Grungy's Ekis are just outside. They've just rallied over here, and the Asabara are killing heaps of villagers. So we've got 74 to 79 villagers. Grungy's doing a wonderful job at actually replenishing his villagers behind this. He's only losing enough that he can replace. Like, he's got some caravans here as well. He's barely lost those. Once these markets are back up, he'll have his market eco back in swing. So Grungy defending a lot better than it looks, I think. But these Malariums inside Geese's base are funny, like... But maybe it's about to pay off, because they're going to mean a nice 15% movement speed boost to any of Grungy's military there, and he's about to hit with these Ekis, so they're about to shoot all the way up to much more than 10 speed. It'll go to like 11.5, I think. Yeah, so they're up to 11.5 speed. He'll be able to engage the Asabara or disengage as easily as he wants. Geese is going to want to destroy these. Meanwhile, the Ekis are just going to get a whole bunch of villager kills, actually. So Geese is gonna... Oh, Geese is at 87 vil, so he's doing a wonderful job at managing that. So Grungy at 83. Grungy defending his houses here. Unfortunately, that little hit and run didn't go quite as planned, I think, but there's still some more Malarians there, giving Grungy a little bit of vision too. So he can see all this. He knows everything about Geese's market line. At some point, Geese is going to have to clean that up, or risk Grungy doing that again, and possibly getting a lot more value out of going for some sort of Ekis or Decurion in enemy base under Malarium type snipe. There's civil engineering's that new upgrade as well, so if for whatever reason Grungy ends up having his markets there, he can always take that too, I suppose. Oh, but this is bad. The fortress is going to go down. The wall isn't quite finished off and Geese is here. So Grungy is going to have to try and send his spear bowman army to deal with this, but it's just such a rough position to be in really, because there's no Malariums down, so the spear is going to be markedly slower than the Asabara. And all this ranged, oh, it's going to die. Poor old Grungy. So Geese chasing him still. There's 12 villagers on the run. Geese is going to push this time with Immortal Asabara as well, so he's going to really be able to deal with the spears. Possibly the Ekis here. But these guys have got such good ranged and melee damage. Really good anti-infantry unit. That's just, well, at the moment they seem to be pretty good at this stage of the game. They're good at just about everything unless you're able to jump on them and kill them straight away. Some nice high damage, high impact age 3 unit. They fall off a little bit later game, but yeah, for now these Immortals really aid Geese here, because Grungy, without a lot of bowmen and then without units to actually defend the bowmen, it's going to be hard for him to deal with the Immortals, or unless he can get a workshop down and get some Scorpios out. But Geese is just hitting him everywhere, sniping that town center. Going to get some villager kills up here. Geese is pop capped 102 villagers, Grungy's at 79, so Geese is just restricting Grungy, destroying a lot of his economy, getting all these buildings as well, so all these houses. Grungy has a smaller economy, but he's also got a smaller army size now too, because he's just not able to max out until all this goes down, until he can clean up a lot of this pressure from Geese. Like, he's losing caravans, losing all these houses. He's going to have to replace both of those and try and replace all of his army. And it's going to be tough because there's so many Asabara champion. There's plenty of Immortals there. Geese has his full age 3 upgrades. Grungy is still stuck with all his full age 2 upgrades, so he's down an upgrade tier as well. This is going to really hurt Grungy unless he can afford to get those out soon. At the same time, he just needs to get the military out to defend too. So Geese, I don't know, this might be the decisive engagement, because the Asabara is still harassing the caravan. So Grungy has 57 pop, he's got like 57 eco pop, he's got like no caravans left. The whole army's dying. I think this might be the game won, guys. So Geese managing to wipe out Grungy's army, and he's pulling up the raiders there, pulling up the Asabara there. He's managed to completely clean up all the markets. So Grungy fielding what villagers and legionaries he can to try and make one last stand. Welcome to the Alamo. Geese going to age 4. He's getting royal roads, he's getting battering rams and cataphracts. It's going to be really, really rough for the Roman player. He's not going to have an answer and age down for the cataphracts, I don't think. Geese continuing to push with the Immortal Asabara, picking off lots of these villages. Grungy's eco is in tatters at the moment. Grungy trying to yield a valiant fight. He's got his bowman at the back line here, trying to use his Immortals to get what, trying to use his legionaries to get what kills with the Asabara and Immortal he can, but there's just too many. Geese is able to just continue to reproduce behind this. He's got cataphracts popping out, these nice, almost 300 cost cavalry, and Grungy just slipping further behind. GG. Grungy does tap out for game 1, but he put up a real good show. And game 2, it's going to be an epic fight on coastal, I think. So I'll be interested to see how these guys go on water, because they both hate playing water PvP in AoEO. So it'll be really, really interesting to see how we go with 2 fairly evenly matched players, I think.